Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What it is, my people. We're driving in the truck again. We tend to do that. It's like the only free time you and I can get together. But once again, my co-pilot, who refuses to drive lately, Casey Smith. What's happening, dude?
I have a full belly of something other than Mexican food, which is quite surprising.
Me too. I guarantee you, the last 3 days I know I've eaten Mexican food.
Yeah.
The last 3 days in a row.
I ate some sort of Mexican for lunch, actually. I grilled some chicken at home and put fajita seasoning on it and then put salsa and black beans on top. So, technically, I still had it today.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of how it goes in my life. You know, something I noticed tonight is it's probably been since my preteen years that when offered a spicy option at a restaurant, I don't take the spicy option.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like,
been a minute, huh?
Yeah. Like, no, I'm going to actually not take the jalapenos on that. That doesn't ever happen. I never do that.
Yeah.
Like, I always want the spice. The spice is life, man.
Yeah?
That's it.
I caught myself doing that today on a Subway sandwich.
Did you?
Because I'd had so much Mexican food in the last 3 days that I decided I wouldn't put jalapenos on my spicy Italian.
Yeah.
And so I just did bell peppers. Yeah,
that was pretty tasty. You didn't do the bananas? Or like the pepperoncinis?
I don't like the Subway banana.
Do you not?
Nah.
I like them.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I had them one time and did not like them, so stay away.
I planted a big garden this year, as you have seen. If you follow our Instagram, you've seen a little bit of it. There'll be more throughout the year, of course, coming, hopefully, unless the deer smoke it again like they did last year. But I've moved, so hopefully it won't be as big of a problem. But I planted 2 varieties of banana peppers.
Man, I saw you had a lot of cool, interesting, like heirloom style or whatever, tomatoes and like several different peppers and stuff. I was like, because it was happening so quick on the story, I was having to freeze it with my thumb, but then I couldn't press it again too quick if I didn't land on the one I wanted to, because then it would just take me out of the story.
Oh, no.
So it was difficult, man.
That is difficult. I guess you'll have to come over and just read the labels yourself.
Yeah.
But 38 tomato plants, and I don't know how many pepper plants, probably close to that. But, man, I just love pepper varieties. Like, it's just so... You can't not use one. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, ancho chili? What am I going to do with this? You know, like, you got to look it up and figure it out. It's just something cool about them. I don't know. It's just, like I said, I like spicy things.
Yeah, you're a pepperful guy.
That's it, man.
Yep. So, I definitely am going to be bumming some tomatoes.
Yeah.
We've talked about maybe putting together an Element salsa to give out to friends and family and that kind of thing. So it'll be exciting, man. I'm excited. I didn't get to plant a garden this year because I don't really have a great place for one now that I've sold my house. But I'm just going to bum off of you, man. Yeah,
it's all right. That's why I planted so much stuff, is because I know that you and other folk, you know, if you have a lot of tomatoes and a lot of other vegetables, but especially tomatoes, like, you can maintain friendships. You know what I mean? People like fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. You know, it's kind of like the share the harvest thing. I mean, it is share the harvest, kind of like you do with you know, deer or hog or whatever. But it's just something that you've grown as opposed to something you went out and shot.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you this: it is hard to beat some fresh fried squash out the garden, or any really prepared any way that you would normally do it.
I got 6 squashes and 6 zucchinis, and dude, what I started doing with those is chop them up and then mix them with some onions and even some okra, if you've got okra coming off, and then put nature seasoning on them and olive oil. Olive oil, dude, cooked olive oil and butter tastes the same to me. Like, it's pretty close. You can tell a little bit. I can get that olive oil taste, but like, it still tastes really good. Put it in the microwave for like 2 minutes, and bam-o, you got a delicious side dish.
Yeah, dude, it's good.
I'm a microwave man.
We also talked about with some of your peppers. We've noticed that the blackberry crop is looking pretty good so far this year. They're not. We hadn't seen any dark ones yet, but we did see a big red one today, and we've seen tons of flowers. And so, if anybody watched our elk steak video, we did a blackberry glaze with jalapenos.
Ooh.
And so it was like a sweet and spicy. Oh my goodness, it was good. So we talked about doing that again. But real quick, I know we don't want to jump into this just yet, but do we want to kind of let people know what this podcast is about?
Yeah, don't be dumb, dude. Not you, but all of us. Me.
Yeah.
Don't be dumb. We're going to talk about not being dumb, because I've been guilty of having my moments in the past, and I do my best to learn from them. And I feel like this time of year especially is a great time for reflection, because, to be honest, like I talked about this with you today, like, this is as far as it gets from deer hunting for me, because I know that we're closer to deer season than we were like in February, but like postseason scouting, shed season, all that stuff's still happening for whitetails. Like right now, you are on the struggle bus if you're trying to find something to do whitetail oriented.
Yeah.
And the most we can find to do is drive around and just look at them in pastures, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, but none of them have horns at all either, too. So you're kind of
exactly. So instead of like working on the physical stuff, and I think even last year, well, we'll get into that later. But instead of doing that, you can kind of prepare mentally for the next season and go over some of the stuff you've done in the past.
Yeah. This afternoon, we did a little fishing.
We did.
Yeah.
So I came over and helped you build a bathroom in your shop.
Yeah.
And we worked until we decided we didn't really want to work anymore, and like, we can put that little bit off until later. Yeah. And went and tried to smoke us some carp.
Yeah, and we pretty much did that. If we'd have had a big old net, we'd have had a hero picture.
Yeah, I know it, man.
You know?
What was I thinking?
Yeah, it's all right.
I bet I know where there's one we can use. But so Tyler and I, we talked about this today too on the way, like as we were walking off. You know that moment like when you're walking away from the deer stand or the fishing trip, you're walking back to the truck at the boat ramp, like you kind of have that moment of reflection where you're like, that was pretty cool, or I kind of liked a little bit. Like today I looked at Tyler and I said, you know what, dude, we don't have a lot of things dialed in, like crappie or bass. Like we'll go and kind of have tough trips, but this carp thing, if we make a good effort, have the right flies, and it's good conditions, we pretty much can catch one.
Yeah.
Or a couple if have enough time, So, and it feels cool. It feels good. And part of this time of reflection might be a way to, there's something that you can probably learn from being able to dial in some aspect of your outdoor lifestyle and apply it to other things. Like, how did you get to that spot where you really like where you're at? And then how do you apply that to whitetail hunting or duck hunting or squirrels in the spring or whatever it might be,
Right. Yeah. Well, I think, there was a kid that actually saw us hooked up on that fish today, and we ended up breaking him off.
Right at the bank.
Yeah, a little loop got around Casey's finger.
I thought my finger was about to pop off, and then the line broke. It was good. And I went, ow! And then I realized it actually didn't hurt that bad. It was just startling.
Scary.
Yeah. Well, I go back to thoughts of shark fishing down at the coast, and dude, when one of the sharks goes on a run, like you can lose some limbs. I mean, we were talking about 120-pound line and 400-pound fish, but it wasn't quite that bad. Anyways, the fellow we met, the kiddo.
Yeah, he was. He kind of had. He was really like excited to see the fish and everything, and it had just broke off, so we didn't have anything to really show him. But he had seen that we had a big old bend in the rod and everything, and asked KC how big it was, and so KC held his hands up about 30 inches or whatever. I mean, this is a big old fish, and the kid was like, "Oh my goodness, I hadn't caught anything really big ever, whatever," and kind of held his hands up to about 14 inches or so. And Casey's like, "It's pretty good, And anyway, just kind of seemed like he hadn't caught a whole lot. And, I think back to like, you and I learned a lot from our dads, and had that, I think having that role model that can kind of teach you some stuff is important. But eventually you have to be able to take what you've learned, like you're saying, and apply it in different areas. And I think being observant has allowed us to catch carp over the last several years.
Yeah.
At one of our spots, I noticed that there was a lot of floating debris that these carp were kind of congregating near, and I thought, well, there's probably insects and stuff like that in there. I'm sure they're feeding on that stuff. So I tied a little beetle pattern together, and the first grass carp I could get that thing in front of just inhaled it, broke them off real quick. But you noticed in this area that the grass carp are feeding on these reeds, and you put together a pretty cool little reed imitation pattern or whatever you want to call it, / like just a tractor,
The sour power.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, and named it and everything, and it is working,
Yeah.
and just, but my point is, just being observant is a huge part of, I feel like, being successful sometimes,
Yeah,
so.
sure. To be honest, for the first year and a half, I tried to fish for these carp. I was like, I'm going to tie on a hopper pattern and try to throw it in front of them. Well,
Right.
They're not eating those at that moment. I know they will, but that's not what they're thinking. And fish aren't yes, some fish are opportunistic, but a lot of fish are kind of like deer. They get locked into a pattern, and that's what they like to stick on, and then they don't like to break it. And you can use that to your advantage if you figure out the pattern.
Right. Yeah. So it was fun. I did mostly just video work tonight, but I do like doing video work, and it was just a real pretty afternoon, man. I have enjoyed this spring. I know a lot of our friends up north are tired of snow and cold temperatures and stuff, but for us, it's been 60-degree temps for forever,
yeah.
and man.
To be honest, I don't know if I can remember April where we hadn't already hit 90.
Oh, yeah.
That always happens.
Or
for
at
us.
least 85 and humid as all get out,
yeah.
So, yeah, it's been nice. But, I think what we'll do is we'll move on to our main topic in this podcast. And what I'd like to do is, since Casey kind of had the idea for this thing, I would like to say that it's not because I'm a little bit underprepared, but I think you're going to take the reins and the lead on this one, and I've got several ideas. Most of mine are things not to be dumb about, and you've got some pretty cool tips on saving money or just not going into massive debt all at one time and these kind of things. So.
Yeah, which I may or may not have done in some points in my life. It's kind of one of these things is you really try to learn from your mistakes, right? That's something we were taught from a young age. And then as you grow and mature and I guess kind of expand your horizons, you really start to put that in effect in different ways. And some of this stuff that I have on here, you probably will have some pretty good banter to because it's stuff that you're a little bit more experienced with. But so I broke it down kind of into 3 different things that you can do. And this is going to kind of just be a mesh of don't be dumb, and also just ways to kind of save some money and not live beyond your means, right? And because we all really want to spend as much time in the woods as we can, right? Being efficient with everything we do, whether that is hunting or non-hunting, working towards it or whatever. You want to spend time in the woods, and you want it to be an enjoyable experience, right? So these are just some things that might help you to get to that point. Excuse me, we had Panda Express tonight, and I've got a little bit of indigestion going on here. But, okay, so this is a new thing for me, okay? I have my whole life hunted in the state of Texas, minus elk hunting. We go in Colorado in September most years, when I am financially able to, and it's not burning up there or something crazy, minus extenuating circumstances. We try to go up there. And now, partially hanging out with you, partially doing some research, and just pretty much paying attention on social media, I'm about to expand my world when it comes to tags in other states and going to other places and stuff. But something that I see a lot of people doing, and I'm not saying that I'm looking at other folks saying, oh, y'all are stupid, but something I got myself caught into for a little while and really had to step back and think about was the fact that there's some of these tags and some of these things you can apply for, and there's places that you might want to go hunt that really are not very cost effective, and they're not very time effective either. Okay? There are some hunts that are in really great states that are pretty expensive, like $600 for, say, like a whitetail tag, right? Like, it's pretty close to that, especially after you put in for a few years to get a tag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality hunt can be good depending on where you're at, and also the size of the animal can be good depending on where you're at. But you can go one state over or one state closer to home and have pretty much the same trophy potential. Maybe not the cool name beside the state that you're going to, you know, like what's popular or what people talk about all the time, and still have just as good a chance at killing a really great animal or having a great experience, whatever it is that you're after. But you just pay way less for the tag. There's out-of-state tags for us available. Like, I know one state in particular that wouldn't be super far, that it's like $220 for a deer license, and that gets you 5 deer. You talk about efficiency, you know, and of course you got to find a place to hunt and do all that. But if you find a place that's a little bit closer to home and it's not very expensive, and you can end up with 5 deer to eat, you know, that's doing good, as opposed to waiting 3 or 4 years to draw this tag in this other state. That you're gonna, you know, you may or may not show up there and have any clue what you're doing, and you just drove 16 hours to get there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you're weighing. You know, you kind of got to like weigh out what harvests and experiences are worth to you. So, like, you know, like, are you gonna? I don't know. Like, and you have to manage your expectations and something like that. I feel like, you know, like, I don't know. My example would be, you know, for you. You wanted to shoot a 4.5-year-old buck last year in Texas on public land. And that was doable with as much time as we spent out in the woods. It didn't happen, but we were within range of one and didn't get to pull the trigger because of the limbs and stuff. So, you know, it was doable, but you had all year to sit there and go out there anytime there was a good, you know, weather event or something like that. But, man, if you're going out of state and you got a 7-day window and that's it, you know, it may be a different story. You may take a different age class or a different size buck, you know, or whatever. And you just kind of, I feel like you got to manage your expectations correctly so that, you know, don't put in for Iowa for 4 years and think that you're going to go up there on public land and shoot a 160.
Yeah.
I mean, because it could happen, absolutely, and they are there. But if you shoot a 140-inch deer, you've done a pretty incredible thing.
A mature
you
buck
know?
on public land is a great feat no matter where you're at in the country. But something that you also have to watch out for is, like, you know, you hear all your life about how great Iowa hunting is. Well, you put in for 4 years, you end up spending, you know, what is it, like $700 once you're done, like, with your 4 years worth of points?
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
depends on what you need to go to, but
if you're, I guess if you can say that, but it would be $700 over 4 years.
Yeah,
so
exactly, and when you do that, you want to make that trip worth it. You don't want to go to Iowa and shoot, you know, a basket 2-year-old, you know, a meat buck. You don't want to do that, right? Like, that's not the point. The whole, like, you're kidding yourself if you want to go hunt Iowa and you tell yourself you're not a trophy hunter, right? Like, that's the whole reason everybody goes up there. That and just the experience of hunting a place that's so
the
famous.
rut actually happens.
Yeah,
and stuff
the rut
like that.
is like
intense.
You know, November 2nd through the 15th. Like, it's just when it happens. You know, it goes crazy. And you want to go up there for the experience of it. But, like, people go there to shoot big bucks. And you kind of have to weigh that out a little bit. You know, like, the whole, is it worth the distance from home to do this? Would I rather go to that state, like, for a 1-week deer hunt? Or would I rather find a place, like, 3 or 4 hours from home that I can spend the same amount of money doing that, maybe go once every year, once every other year, and go, like, 3 or 4 weekends or weekdays or whatever you have off, you know, during the season, and spread it out more, as opposed to, like, because, man, I know a couple guys that, and not to criticize them or anything, they love what they do, and that's fine. It's just not what I want to do. Like, they're 10-day deer hunters, right? Like, they hunt, like, opening weekend, and then they take a rut vacation, you know, and that's what they do. That's how they deer hunt. And me personally, I really like to hunt all season long. And it kind of bites me in the butt sometimes because I end up passing deer, probably shouldn't, just because I want to be in the stand more, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe that's me being greedy too, because you need to hunt every once in a while. But Tyler's, he's pretty liable to just say, no, man, you hunt, I'll film. but I know what's happening. He wants to be hunting.
I like filming more than you do, and it works out all right that way.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks for that. Appreciate the opportunities to hold the bow. Because that's what I do. I don't draw it back.
Right. Well, you've drawn it once at least. So,
yeah.
No, I'm with you, and I don't know. I may be wrong. I may be making a wrong assumption about this, maybe, but I feel like you and I are one place where we're maybe not just like polar opposite or anything, but like we have a couple of different like train of thought or like mindset about something. Is you and your mindset's probably better, but like you're very oriented or mindful of like money versus like meat in your freezer, like pounds of meat in your freezer, you know?
Yeah.
And so like you tend to justify things, it seems like traveling out of state to go hunt in a like meat. How much meat can I get out of this thing? Mm-hmm. And I'm a little more about, not that you're not about experience, but like I'm willing to probably spend more money on just having an experience, even if it is a crappy one. You know, like I just love traveling a lot and going places. I know you do too. I'm just saying I have a little less of that. Like I just always hear you talk about, you know, you can get like 14 deer out of this tag.
Well, I think it's just
whatever.
a cool thing about it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that's not to say, I think you're probably right. You consider the whole a little bit more, but you're talking to a guy over here who almost picked up like a late rifle pronghorn doe hunt in Wyoming last year because I just wanted, like, I saw that there were some available leftover. I was like, oh, should I go do that? And I was like, nah, better not. Yeah. But I'm all about that experience stuff too. It's just I do like to think about, because it's easier to justify the wife. Yeah, well, that it really is. Especially, you know, if you're blessed with wives like we are that do eat deer meat. You know, I didn't grow up that way. My mom didn't eat deer meat, which was kind of weird. She likes elk though. But anyways, who doesn't like elk? But I think that I really enjoy the feeling of bringing home meat. Like that's part of the. It's not just that I'm justifying that. You see what I'm differentiating in right here? It's kind of hard to understand. No, it's hard to put into words. Part of the enjoyment for you. I really love bringing home a cooler full of meat. Like it brings me great joy, you know, and like and we dance on this line all the time of are we out there to, you know, do the whole organic meat thing and bring home healthy food and all this? Or are we out there because we like big antlers and because it's a lot of fun to chase these crazy bucks running around? Let's just say the whole aura of the experience is just awesome. And that's when you mix it all together, that's what gives you the true experience. You know? It's like it would be, we would love to just harvest our own, you know, organic meat or whatever, but we ain't all just going and getting cows and putting them in our pastures, you know. Oh, yeah. But then, you know, at the same time, like we're not just going out and killing bucks and cutting their heads off, you know. Yeah, exactly. So it's just all of it put together. Side note, when we're up there hunting in Colorado, those people have grazing rights on the national forest land. And they're supposed to get them out by September, and they usually don't. Like, and you and I saw a couple cowboys with a Hereford and calf, I think, this year, kind of mess up one of our little elk hunts. But anyways, if you're like going on like day 6 of a hunt and one of them 800 or 400-pound steers rolls by, you're like, man, I bet you that tastes just as good as an elk right there. Yeah. But I got room in my cooler too because I ain't seen an elk. Never done it. Don't worry, guys. But they do look tasty. They do. Anyways, so if you do have like the drive to want to go on one of these out-of-state hunts, or you want to like see what your options are, or explore, or maybe you've got a little bit of extra money, maybe to start trying to play the tag game a little bit. Something that I learned this year, because I don't. You can, I guess, get a credit card, or you can end up with a lot of your money back or whatever. But I just kind of have, like, I don't know, an old school mentality on things, which is really unnecessary whenever we live in the digital age. But anyways, what I'm getting at is, like, I don't like to feel the hit on my checking account but still know like I'm going to get the money back. You know. So what I did this year is I looked at like a lot. I'm kicking a water bottle down here. Sorry if y'all hear that, but I looked at the hunts that I really wanted to go on. I looked at the hunts that I knew I had a chance of drawing and the ones I actually wanted to draw, and weighed it all out. And then I looked at when the due dates were for the applications, right? So I really couldn't do some states right next to each other because I'd end up with like $1,200 out of my checking account. But the way I worked it, I got my money back from one tag before I ever had to apply to the next tag. And I applied to like 3 or 4 different states, I guess, this year for different animals. But so for me, like, even though I kind of had, I had the funds to do it or whatever, I just don't want to put myself in a situation, or me and my family, to where our accounts are depleted and something happens or whatever. So what I'm getting at is I staggered my application strategy. Didn't apply for every state, but I built some points here and there, right? Or at least put in for a place where I thought I had a chance, or put in something where if I did draw, it'd be a glory tag and I'd love to go. I didn't put in for any tags that like it might be a hindrance if I drew this year. I feel like that happens to people sometimes. Like, for instance, you could draw a pretty good mule deer tag this year and you thought about doing it, and then you're like, oh wait, I'm probably going to draw Iowa this year. We're going to a couple of other places as well, whitetail hunting. Like, can I really stick that in there too, or should I just stall it for the next year, right? And I think you pretty much decided what.
Yeah, I went preference points only. Yeah,
went points on that deal. So you kind of get it too. Like, you got to stagger your tags out a little bit, and if you're a money-minded person or you just kind of getting into the game, it's a good way to kind of try it out, kind of get your bearings straight on how it all works for, like, in the future when you really want to get after it. And that's kind of how I felt like what I did this year. Like, I kind of understand the tag game now. After doing it for a year, like, the application processes don't cause me near as much anxiety as what they did. I don't know if you remember, but the first one I did this year, I was like calling you, like, dude, what do I do here? What do I do? And
you're like, dude, I don't know. I'm just, it's the last day. I just don't think I can get it done in time. I'm like, dude, pick up your phone and put in. I know you've been working your tail off.
Yeah. So thanks for the motivation.
Yeah, but and one thing I would say that's kind of goes along with all this that we've been talking about as far as purchasing tags and spending the money and trying to make the most out of the tags that you buy and getting the most out of a state application and this and that, is when you do kill something, cook it and eat it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Make it something that you try to make it something that you enjoy doing. Like, cook good, make it taste good, and make your wife like it, and don't feed her some kind of cardboard unless that's what she likes.
Yeah, grow your garden, get some fresh vegetables, and cook up that meat.
Yeah, exactly, and make use of it, and it becomes. If it becomes part of your kind of family diet, like, it's a lot easier for your, no pun intended, but your wife to stomach you leaving for, several weeks a year.
To be honest, okay, so that's literally played itself out at my house this year. Because I didn't bring home an elk like we had our whole first year of marriage. My wife's like, man, I miss that elk. Like, we're just eating whitetail, and it's good.
Yeah.
But she can tell the difference, and I don't mind either way. I like whitetail too, but I will say elk is better. And, like, she's like, I'm ready for you to bring home another elk. I'm like, yes, it's worked.
Like, how much do you want me to spend?
Yeah, I know. I mean, babe, those ones, in Arizona are way bigger.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's true, man. Whenever you make, you put all this effort into harvesting these animals, and then if you just fry them up or turn them into jerky, yeah, it's good stuff, but you run the risk of losing a little bit of appreciation from individuals who don't quite get it.
For sure.
For
sure.
But so anyways, that's kind of was a ramble. We got to talking about food somehow or other. But I guess kind of my last thing on the tag stuff, and this is something you can do whether you're drawing tags or you're just going on a hunt that might be over the counter. like Tyler and I's situation is a little bit different because we kind of like to have a cameraman and a hunter on some of the hunts we go on, and do a vice versa kind of thing. But if you're a guy who doesn't really care that much about getting your stuff on film, or you don't have a cameraman, or a guy who, if you want to hunt, if you group app or kind of keep your points in line and go on these out-of-state trips together, it makes it so much more fun because, man, it's cool to share great experiences with great friends. And B, it actually makes things a whole lot more cost-effective. I mean, you think about traveling like what we do to Colorado. You're traveling 20, 22 hours, something like that. And this year, we took 4 of us up there. Mm-hmm. And, the 2 vehicles still, but we saved on gas. And then we saved on, this guy's got the big tent, and these guys have got the cooking stuff. And you can do all this stuff, and it builds your experience, and it makes things so much more fun and enjoyable. But, too, it really does save you quite a bit of money.
Mm. Well, you also think about, Matt hurt his knee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it was just him and Brennan, it'd be trouble getting that thing out of that canyon,
no kidding. Yeah, we had to go at midnight on a midnight run after some meat after Brendan decided to talk to people for about 3 hours.
Dude, I was not happy with everything that happened that night.
Oh.
I was like, man, we could be in bed. We didn't get in bed till 2:18 or something that morning.
But dude, it's one of those things where I'm glad we were all there in that moment because sitting out there, it's kind of a night like tonight where it's real quiet, but there's so many more stars. And
it was the darkest I've ever experienced.
Cool.
The darkest night I've ever experienced.
Yeah, but the stars were super bright at the same time. It was like.
But I mean, like, I'm not kidding you. When we sat down, obviously, like you said, the stars were super bright, but when I put my hand, I literally could not see my hand in front of my face.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
It was that dark.
Yeah, you get out in the wild and it's that way, and then it's 1 a.m. You're dead dog tired. You're packing out a giant elk that your buddy shot, and you're like kind of halfway ticked at him, and you're kind of halfway super pumped for him, and you got 80 pounds of meat on your back, and you just like fall down, and you're like a turtle flipped upside down with this meat on your back, and you're looking up at the stars. Like, that's a good time, and you don't get to enjoy that when you go by yourself or just kind of like see dudes at camp or whatever.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about that, man. Like the solo hunt, man. Kudos to you who can do it, pull it off, and get by and do it. That's the man of man things to do, But like, I don't know. It's just not really my cup of tea, and you didn't really think so either.
No, I mean, I like a good afternoon sit whitetailing by myself. Like it's fun. Sometimes it's a good time for me to pray, a good time for me to reflect on stuff that's going on in my life or whatever, and work on your relationship with God. But then at the same time, like, dude, you and I have a blast in the stand together.
Oh, dude.
We'd be laughing.
Scaring deer. That's all we do, I think. Dude, I guarantee you we've scared more than we know.
Probably so. Probably so. So I don't know if I've ever told this story on the podcast. And it might not be that funny to everybody else, but I thought it was hilarious. We were in there hunting teenager one morning in one of our many unsuccessful attempts. And Tyler had shot a coyote. And he got down to go get his arrow. We were fixing to leave. I had a huge pack of coyotes coming on us. And where we went was really muddy. And I was in the stand. I was sitting up there. I guess I was keeping watch. But really, I was just finding a way to mess with him. And he goes down to get his arrow, and he's like bending over, and he's just cracking it up. I mean, just straight up Plumber City, just butt crack hanging out. And I'm like,
hey, man, you make me sound like a big old fat dude.
Nah, we were eating way too much Dairy Queen back in deer season.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna make him pay for this. So I reached down in my boot and I make me a marble of mud. Like when you're a little kid, you roll it in your hand. You're like, I'm an Indian. Like you're making a marble. And I guarantee you're 12 or 15 yards away, and I just go straight up like free throw style, and just like perfect form, and this thing goes right in the crack. I mean, money shot. Like it was just like straight up perfect.
Yeah, you thought it was a lot funnier than I did.
I was about to fall out of the trees then. Tyler really wasn't that happy about it. But
I didn't care that much, but I was just like, it was mud in my booty hole.
Yeah, and I made it first shot. I mean, first time. It's not like I threw another clay ball and nobody knew. Like, I promise you guys, first time. But stuff like that's what you get to experience when you hunt another guy.
Yeah, for sure.
don't be the guy who gets down out of the stand and shows his crack, because you might not like it as much.
That's right. Crack kills.
Yeah. Anyway, so
yep.
That's kind of my take on tags and things to do where you can, save a little money and save yourself some stress, really, because trying to balance like adventures and hunting and stuff with being a family man and being mindful of your budget and not trying to, I don't ever want my hunting to be something that like affects our life, except in a good way. I don't want it to be like something we're like, well, crap, we don't have money to, buy this part for the car because I bought a bow this year or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I take that. Anything else you want to add to the tags part?
Man, I don't think I really have any other tags things.
Yeah. Well, so there is in this world of hunting that we live in a bottomless pit. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that bottomless pit is?
Besides Instagram, I would think gear.
Yeah. Gear is a bottomless, dark pit of anguish and despair for some folks.
Yeah,
I love gear. I love it too much. In the past, I've been guilty of going to outdoor retail stores and just throwing junk in my basket that I didn't need or want or ever use. I guarantee you there are some old Realtree button-up shirts, like cotton ones, at my house that have never been worn because they were on sale. I was like, I need that. That's a $12 shirt. Who can pass up a $12 shirt?
I may have told this story before on the podcast, but when I was in college, I used to go and I was on a basically you get paid to play football. You get a stipend check. Contrary to maybe popular belief, but in Highland Park, your stipend check didn't go that far. Standard of living's pretty high there.
Yeah,
and so anyway, I'd go to Bass Pro like on a Wednesday night or whatever, in the spring, and I'd have to carry something around, find something like I needed. I didn't just want it. I'd carry it around for about 30 minutes and look around at all the mounts and stuff, and I'd get up there by the registers and be like, Dad, this thing's $11.99. And I would walk back and put it back. I did that so many times on cheap things, like less than $15.
I'm glad we're not living in the college days anymore.
Me too.
That's
I still kind of act like it sometimes.
Yeah. That mentality is hard to break out of, and that might be part of the reason why I kind of go all scorched earth on this gear stuff. But I do see other people, and I've been guilty of it too, just throwing money away or throwing money at things that don't really matter, that just are frivolous, when they could be putting that money towards tags or trips or gas money or
experiences.
Things. And quite honestly, this is something I've learned from you, because you're good at this stuff, and you've talked to me about this before. And I still like my stuff, like to buy gear, like fancy trinkets, right? But whenever you put that money in experience, you remember so much more about it, right? So, and it started with fly fishing stuff, really. I think how you've talked about how you use some pretty cheap gear.
Which the last two times we've gone, I've been severely underprepared. And that's just because I haven't re-upped any of my needs, or whatever. But yeah, you've saved me because you have extra stuff.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of like the smaller stuff. But we're talking about your rods and reels,
right.
The cheaper ones work, until you start talking about really big fish. But we haven't targeted any tuna or anything on fly gear or tarpon, so it doesn't really matter. And the cheap stuff catches fish, right? You've been to Rocky Mountain National Park a couple times and caught fish.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So did you need a $800 rod to do it?
I mean, I could have caught them on my half weight probably and brought them in, and I was using a 4-weight. So, I wasn't casting far. I wasn't. I could have, but there's fish right in front of me. I'd just be throwing over them,
Yeah. And the same thing kinda can apply to your hunting stuff. We're talking about bows, especially. All right. There's people. I've never been like this too much. I'm seriously debating getting a new bow this year, but I haven't made the choice yet to do it. I haven't talked to my wife yet about it either. I think she's cool with it, but anyways. There's some people that, man, every new bow, every flagship that comes out, they got to have it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like cars, I guess, to where, like, if you get rid of your one you have fast enough, it's still worth some money. So maybe it works out for them. But I just can't see.
I always felt like you got upside down on your cars pretty quick.
Yeah, I think
Which I don't know how quick that actually happens, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that it sooner or later it's going to catch up with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to lose some money on the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And, two, like, I like the familiarity I have with my bow. Mm-hmm. I like the nostalgia. Like, I know how the grip works. Like, I've got a wooden grip on my old Matthews.
Me too. I love it,
man.
Me too.
And mine, like, is missing a little chunk out of it, and I just know where that's at. I know what it feels like, you know. And it's just so cool. And don't get me wrong. We both
shoot bows that are what, 10 years old?
About that. I think mine's like 8, but
mine's
somewhere
over 10, 11 or something like that.
Touch older than mine, but mine's got some cam lean and stuff, and it's kind of hard on strings. So I have a little justification, but at the same time,
I would say the worst people, or some of the worst people about that, are golfers.
Yeah,
it's like the new club set that comes out is going to hit your ball 3 yards longer.
Sure, yeah.
And they think it's just the most magical thing.
Well, you can talk about that same thing with bows and arrows, though, man. Like,
for sure.
Oh, this is 3 feet per second faster. You know, but it's like, dude, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, like, it doesn't matter. Or like, oh, man, I can shoot like 10 yards further. Well, guess what, guys? If you're good at your craft, you perfect your craft, like, you can par every par 4 out there, right? It doesn't matter how old your clubs are. If you can get deer to 20 yards, you can hit the sucker.
Here's what I've always thought is, when the PSC Nova came out, dudes were killing deer with it.
Oh, that's what I killed my first deer with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and there's millions of them made probably, but like, or whatever, but tons of them. And so, but the thing is, like, people would laugh today if you saw it. You know, like, it would just be like, can you really kill something with that? And they were killing them, you know.
Yeah.
It does. It may take a little extra. I mean, it may take more work practicing with something that's not quite as easy to shoot or whatever, but yeah, you're right about that, man. Like, you can, and one point I would make, man, I have several points actually, or thoughts and tips and don't do's and don't be dumbs about the gear kind of thing. But something that's really expensive that I feel like, I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong to have an ATV.
Yeah.
But, dude, that's an expensive piece of equipment these days. And
especially for a new one.
If you got 40 acres, do you really need to drive your four-wheeler to the back of your 40? You know? Can you not walk?
Four-wheeler?
Yeah.
Dude, nowadays it's UTVs, side-by-sides.
Yeah.
We're talking about even more money, you know? Like,
exactly.
You're exactly right, man.
Starting at like $12,000.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. It's crazy, and you're right. But at the same time, I guess we should kind of put the caveat on this on, like, if that's what you really like to do and it makes you happy, then do it.
For sure, yeah.
You know, and you've got the money.
But just the whole thing is be mindful about.
Yeah, don't put yourself in the situation where you've got a side-by-side and it's awesome, but you can't afford to, like, leave your suburban home with it because you don't have any place to go hunt because you spend all your money on your side-by-side, right?
I mean, that's, and another thing, you know, I'm thinking is, like, if you're driving that side-by-side across your 40 acres, there's a good chance you're spooking some deer, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, you might just rethink that whole thing, save yourself some money, buy yourself some out-of-state tags, or go on an outfitted hunt somewhere for a cool species, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead, and have a really cool experience that lasts a lifetime instead of a UTV that in 10 years is going to be worth about $3,000, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I have a four-wheeler. ATV, but my situation was a little bit different. I actually needed one for work for a while, which, you know, I guess that kind of can play into that as well. Like, and that's kind of a hard thing to do. But if you can find a way to make money off of that, you know, whether, like, maybe you're a surveyor or something, you know, or somebody who can use it for work, you can multi-purpose some things, right? Yeah. And that's kind of how I ended up with mine. And now I actually have an asset because I have a paid-off four-wheeler that I have a title to, and you know, I can sell it when I need to if I want to buy a new bow.
You talked about it after elk season last year.
Yeah, I did. And then now I've got on this whole kick where I want to buy some property, and I'm thinking,
be nice to have something.
And nice to have four-wheeler. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which is kind of the opposite of what we just talked about. If you got 40 acres, you don't need ATV. But I already have the ATV.
No, I'm just, my whole thing is with this, be mindful. Same thing is, like, you may need a new bow. You know what I'm saying? But then you also may not, because you may have one that's 3 years old and it'll do exactly what.
And to be honest, like, I could continue shooting my bow. I could do a little bit of work on it, and it's fine. I mean, I'll still keep the thing. You know, I can shoot deer with it the next 10 years. But there's wants come into this stuff a little bit, you know?
For sure,
and I
dude.
said from the beginning, I like cool new stuff. And to be honest, it's pretty impressive when you can shoot a bow and you're like, wait, did this thing just go off in my hand? You know, you don't know that. Another thing that I see dudes, and I've done this, spend money on and it not work out well, or just it not be the right piece of equipment because you got too cheap, is backpacks. And that's something I've really, and I might buy another pack this year for whitetail hunting. You and I've talked about that, one of the Sika packs. But I have never spent a lot of money on a backpack until this past year. I bought, I think it's the 30, the Sitka, or is it Flash 20? I don't remember. One of their, like, mountain-style elk hunting day packs, like the bigger one that you can pack some meat in. And I really, really like the thing. It's light. It's heavy-duty. I mean, some of our times we've toted stuff in for whitetail hunting with it. It's like 60 or 70 pounds of crap on your back, right?
Yeah, and there's different little corners of gear poking every direction, and it hasn't really torn.
It hasn't torn up or anything. You know, it's in good shape. But I say that knowing that I've been down a long road of buying $40 and $50 backpacks that are heavy, uncomfortable to wear, and tear up within the first year. And if I'd have just went out and bought a good one in the first place, I'd end up saving money in the long run. You know, sometimes it's not about like cheaping out. Sometimes it's about spending money on the good stuff off the bat. That way you don't have to have a whole bunch of junky things. Or like right now, I've got a closet full of like, I think it's like 3 or 4 between me and my wife, like backpacks with holes in them or busted buckles or, you know, this different things like that to where they're really only good for like a beach trip or something where you don't mind just tearing it up worse.
I'm very apt to do what you just said and buy something, spend extra money on something and buy something nice.
Yeah.
I have a friend that will a lot of times just go that mediocre route and oftentimes is just disappointed. And I'm like, man, you know, I did this with the first guitar that I ever bought on my own. And I bought an American Fender Stratocaster. So if anybody out there is a guitar player or knows a little bit about them, you know, that's a nice guitar.
I know what that is, and I don't know anything about guitars.
Yeah, they're a very popular guitar.
Yeah.
But it's an American Deluxe, so it's pretty much top of the line Strat, kind of consumer Strat or whatever. And spent like $800, and this is almost 15 years ago. So that was a pretty good chunk of change, you know, and for the first guitar, I could barely even play, you know, I probably knew about 6 first position chords, you know. I mean, I didn't do the guitar justice, but eventually, because I had nice gear, it inspired me to work at my craft and get better. And, you know, it's just like when you get a new guitar, you want to play that sucker.
Sure.
You know, like if you get a new bow, let me go shoot that sucker and get better at shooting, you know.
Let me give you the opposite of that. And I'm going to stay in your music realm.
All right.
So, Pop, my granddad, he played guitar growing up. Really liked it. You know, kind of lost it as he got older. But he wanted me when I was young to learn how to play guitar too. And he bought me a guitar at a garage sale that the neck and strings were literally a half inch from each other. And I messed with it for a week and then put it down.
You can't do it.
No, it was terrible. It was like the worst thing ever. Like it was so not fun to even try to play on.
My first guitar was that way.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it, but same thing. My parents, we went to Guitar Center. We ordered it from Musician's Friend magazine, and when it came in, same thing. You could not play all the strings without muting one or messing things up, you know, and it hurts your fingers so bad, you know. And that's the thing. I mean, I guess the point you're probably making is that if you do buy just kind of cheap bottom line gear, it usually ends up biting you in the butt some way.
Oh yeah, it definitely does, and I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah.
And okay, so another thing that, and I kind of touched on this earlier, and we'll just kind of do it real quick right here. But, you know, I said I'd walk around the Bass Pro Cabela's or whatever and just fill the buggy full of junk.
Yeah.
Man, people got this trinket, like, addiction. Like, you know how like kids, you know this, kids have like a bajillion toys,
Yeah.
and they have a whole bunch of them they don't ever mess with, and they got like the new one, and they get a new one, and then the old ones go away, right?
Yeah.
We're the same way,
Yeah.
right? So like, whether it's like, oh man, I really like this thermocell, and then you like forget to put batteries in it, and then you forget it exists, right? Or man, this new corn holder. You know what the corn holder is? You know what I'm talking about? It like screws in the ground and it's corn. And it's like feed. Yeah. Like, oh, this thing ought to work, right? Like, and it's like $7, and no deer ever looks at it, right? Like all these things add up, right? And you do all this stuff to think that it's gonna make you a better deer hunter. And all it does is just like slowly eat away at your pocketbook and doesn't help you at all. Whenever if you instead of like spending the money on that, if you spent that money on whether it's maps or maybe a new pair of boots or some socks to keep you warm, you could stay in the stand longer. You know, there's things that you can spend money on that really do make sense, and there's things that you can just blow money on because it's cool or because some fast-talking redneck on TV told you is awesome, you know, like instead of the fast-talking redneck on the podcast like me. But anyways, like, I had to really overcome that because I used to go to Walmart, man, and I just like go in there and buy bow hangers and material or like gear hooks and just junk.
Well, you
know?
look at it like you want things. You want new things. It's cool to get new things, and you can't just go into Walmart and buy a $100 thing every time.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you spend $14.73 on 3 different things. You're like, oh, got
how
my
cool
fix.
Is this? Yeah.
But then when you do that every time, it's like, well, 4 times into that, you could have spent $100,
Exactly.
on something decent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I used to, every time I'd go to Walmart, well, not every time, every couple weeks when I was single, I'd go to Walmart and I'd buy a Realtree Monster Bucks DVD because I didn't have TV and I'd watch that, right? I mean, it was cool. It was a good thing for me at that time. I enjoyed it, but
get you some shooting lessons.
Yeah. Now, from old boy, it's a good one. But now I've got a whole bunch of Monster Bucks DVDs I don't ever watch, and they cost $20 a piece. You know, like, was it really worth it?
You might need to go back and watch them.
Might need to learn a little bit about it.
Yeah,
but anyways, just watch out for those trinkets.
For
because there's so many people shoving this stuff down your throat on social media and on TV about how cool this thing is. But, man, the Indians killed them with sticks and stones,
That's right. That's right, man. That is right.
Yeah.
And, back to the backpack thing. Our good friend Chris B gave us this tip the other day. And so I'd say don't be dumb and carry an extra release in your backpack or extra shells if you're a rifle hunter, I thought that was a good piece of advice that I'm probably going to end up trying to uphold this year.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. I carry extra release in my bow case, which doesn't make it to the stand with me, so it doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah. So the last thing on gear stuff for me, and okay, I might get roasted for this, all right? And some of you might not like it. Some of you might have made jokes about it, but being on pro staff is not the worst thing in the world, right?
Right.
Like, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm going to use these people's products. They're going to give me a discount on them. And I'm going to let them know what I think about them. And I'm going to be honest about it.
Post pictures.
Right, post pictures about it. That's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you don't go overboard with it and annoy the tar out of people, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And it gets a bad rap by some people, like hashtag pro staff, that kind of thing. And I pick at you about that. Something with being a pro the other day. I don't remember what it was. But it's kind of a joke. But, there's nothing wrong with helping people out. And when you have like a mutual agreement to help each other, it's a good thing. It can be for all. There's plenty of products out there that you can reach out to the manufacturers or whatever. Maybe they'll send you a free little thing, or you can get a 20% discount or whatever. And if you're going to buy it anyways, you might as well do that. And it's a good way to save a little bit of money,
For sure, man.
And just don't go crazy with it and don't be silly. Everything in moderation.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I've got couple last little gear thoughts here.
Yeah.
If you hunt public land, buy a deer cart. Don't be dumb,
man,
like me and KC, and drag a big old huge Midwestern buck for like 2/3 of a mile or more to get him out.
Gosh, that took like 2 hours.
Took forever.
I
don't know how far it actually was. It may have been closer to a mile, but like the drag was just, we would like run like 20 steps and then we'd be like, okay, stop. And we just stop and then sit there for about
It was
3 minutes.
brutal, man. Brutal. And that's something we need to address soon. We need to get that done pretty quick.
Yeah, we do. So we're that's our plan. Something you could learn from us. Yeah, if you hunt public land or anywhere you can't get if you don't have an ATV and you can't get a truck in there, whatever, like get you a little deer cart. I would say, we've been talking a lot about saving money. Don't buy this and that or whatever. But this is one thing I think definitely buy. And then another thing I would say to buy, or at least to have a lot of them, is a knife, pocket knife. I think you can get them so cheap, man. Like I know one thing, like all those Gerbers are super sharp when you first get them, and they're super cheap. And yeah, the blade dulls pretty quick, but get you a bunch of knives or a Havalon or whatever you want. But just make sure I feel like you can't hardly have enough pocket knives because, today we were working on the shop and you were like, you got a pocket knife? I don't know where mine is, Yeah. And you'll find it in the next couple of days and you'll be like, oh, I'm a doofus, whatever. But if you had several of them in different spots, and I think of that more like when I'm hunting, I've got one in like every bag that I own, and it's like I'll never be without one.
That's something that I have to really watch out for too, because I don't have as many, but we go to travel, like if we're flying somewhere, I'm likely to have a knife stashed somewhere, and I triple check my pockets on my bag.
Dude, I'm so nervous
because I'm always using some bag that I use for an elk hunt or something. It's all, I don't have luggage. I just use like my old hunting backpacks, and I'm always nervous. Dude, a stray 22 shell. Can you imagine if you go through TSA with a stray 22 shell? Dude, you ain't making it to wherever you're going.
Dude, that reminds me of the Cat Williams joke so much.
You like you some Cat Williams, don't you?
I love Cat Williams, dude.
Yeah, he's a pretty funny dude.
He's a funny dude, for sure.
Let me tell you where I am possibly the dumbest, and have been like super recently even. It's in time.
Okay, I got some stuff on time.
I still struggle with this so much. Don't be dumb with your time, KC. Like, there's so many things that I want to go do and want to try out and this and that. But to be honest, there's so many times when I'd be better off staying at home, getting some work done, writing some stuff or whatever it might be, instead of going out and just wasting time, wasting gas, wasting miles, wasting time away from my wife and building brownie points, episode 4 or whatever that might be, way back there, right? So, like, I'm so bad about it. You and I even did this just the other day.
Yeah.
We went on a fishing trip. Fishing wasn't very good within the first hour. We're like, you know what, man? Let's go drive around, see if we can't find a deer hunting spot. There's some public land that was, about an hour away or something. And it was terrible.
And we kind of it's like we knew that we probably would never hunt this spot.
Yeah.
Because there's places closer that are very much the same,
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that in a second, or at least I am. You go ahead. Go if you...
Yeah, I was just saying we just kind of knew going into it we probably wouldn't hunt here, and so it just ended up being just more wasted time kind of,
Yeah, exactly. Thing. So one of the things I've written down is like proximity to home. Whenever you're going to spend time on... like scouting a place or hunting, even like considering hunting a place. Like we did it last year, turkey hunting some. Like you end up driving a long way from home for a hope and a prayer when you could have just stayed at home, done something different that you're good at and had a great experience, right? Mm-hmm. Or instead of like scouting out this place that you'll probably never make it to, hey, don't take that trip. Just stay close to the house. Do something productive, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you never explore, you never push your boundaries, you never like expand your horizons, you'll never find cool new things to do, right?
For sure.
So you have to weigh those options.
Yeah.
It's like you were saying, you and I the other day, like we had a pretty good idea that there weren't going to be many things that like changed our mind about that area.
Mm-hmm.
But we
just kept pushing.
We have this thing where we want to salvage every trip. We want to make every trip like worth the while. And sometimes you're better off just to cut your losses. And
you gotta know when to hold 'em.
That's right. Kenny Rogers.
Know when to fold 'em.
Yeah. But it's for real, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like we talked about that day. Like we just tried to salvage our trip and ended up just on a bunch of dead end roads and not knowing where we were half the time.
Yeah.
And not seeing anything but maybe somebody illegally baiting a road.
Very possibly somebody illegally baiting. I mean, and I think there's definitely a month that you don't sit all day sits in Texas for deer. And that month starts with a O.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, don't be dumb.
Octubre in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
We did that this past year, man.
Yeah, I don't know. We could have killed a deer and changed our whole mindset about this thing, but I think, I would say kind of just to go along with what you're saying, October, may try to jump in on an afternoon hunt early on, just get your fix a little bit and just try your best to kind of really wait for like a good cold front, maybe at least midway through the month before you spend too much time out there burning brownie points. I mean, guarantee you have much better served if you just wait a couple weeks to use those brownie points.
We're always so antsy, though. It's what we do. I mean, you and I put trail cameras out last year at the end of June, I think, right? But, I mean, that paid off somewhat. We sweated our tails off, but, we got cool pictures of deer. But I don't know if those June trail cam pictures really helped us do much.
They probably hurt us.
But made us stick around a few places. But one of the things I had written down that really applies to that kind of October hunting and then can go even into like what we talked about earlier with tags is the idea of experience hunting versus harvest hunting and like what's important to you. So the likelihood of a harvest on that all-day October sit was kind of low, right? We thought it was going to be cool. We thought we had a great chance. But, man, just in October, deer don't move in the middle of the day that often, especially early October around here. If you're in the Midwest, maybe it's different. But so we knew that, like, or at least in our subconscious, we should have known that there's a chance we're not going to see anything or not going to have a great hunt. And then the experience of sitting in a stand all day long in early October and not seeing jack, there's no rut activity at all to speak of. Like, the experience wasn't great either.
No.
Like you and I kind of laughed a lot in the stand. And by the end of the day, we're like, oh, this is terrible. Let's just
by
talk.
like 2 p.m., you're just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and then you lose your focus and you're not a good hunter anymore. And who knows if you scared something off or if something came in you didn't even see, right? But, like, neither the harvest success or experience success was there, so it made for a terrible hunt. Now, there's some hunts you can do that might not be the greatest experience. Like, for instance, I'm probably going to put a feeder in my backyard this year. And if I get a chance, I'll shoot a doe there. Is that, like, the greatest experience? Like, is it, like, super adventurous? Or, like, do I feel like I'm really, like, putting my mental fortitude to the test in that hunt?
Right.
No. But I'm going to harvest a doe, and it's going to be cool because I do it in my backyard, right?
It's efficient, time-wise.
Yes, exactly.
Getting meat.
Now, you and I have also talked about, like, heading out west to some crazy place where there ain't no trees and trying to do a whitetail hunt sometime, right? May or might not even be some whitetails there. But it's going to be a lot of fun. The experience is going to be
seeing new territory
like no other, right? And seeing new stuff, seeing new places, seeing new, different types of, from the smallest flower to, like, whatever you might run up on out there rodent-wise or snakes or whatever. Oh, you ain't going to like that. But just, the experience factor, the adventure factor is super high.
Yeah.
So it makes that kind of hunt worth it, too. And you need to, like, just don't be dumb and make sure you're striving for one of those or the other. Yeah. And not just wasting time on a hunt that's not going to produce either.
Right. I this is kind of a little bit off of, this isn't just oriented towards hunting, but this is a time management thing. And I had an audio book of the 4-Hour Work Week. It's all, to me, I have to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt because a lot of books like this are written with, like, they're written by guys who have figured out how to make a lot of money and be very time efficient and this and that. And so, like, everything they do or think about is just oriented towards how can business be best. And sometimes, like I mentioned before, people are more important than business, and they're more important than other things. Your family is important. And there's like mentions of don't ever be available, like don't answer the phone, always take a message and you can call people back, and don't answer people that are habitual time wasters in your life and this and that. And I'm like, I got some friends that can definitely chat it up on the phone and maybe not really say anything. And yeah, I'm busy at the time. But, I mean, what kind of friend are you if you're just always ignoring their phone call, And just, I don't know. Some things that rub me wrong. So, like, if you do listen to those types of books, make sure you're not just thinking that this is the Bible and you should listen to every single word of it,
Yeah.
But I did take some good things away from it. And one thing is grouping tasks. And so this would be an example. This would be emails or phone calls or meetings or that kind of thing. So like instead of checking your email every hour and a half throughout the day, all day, every week, say I'm going to check my emails all at noon every day. Mm-hmm. Or noon and 6 p.m. And then don't worry about it the rest of the day. Or in this case, you eventually wean your way down to, I'm going to check my emails once a week. And he was like, you'd be surprised at how like you think the world's going to blow up when you don't do that, but then it really doesn't. And nothing, you didn't miss out on anything. And when you get your business going that well, yeah, things are going to wait on you for sure. But like, I just think that I've kind of taken that to, I've taken the whole time management into, my thoughts lately. Like I'm trying to sell one of my cameras on Facebook Marketplace, and I can tell pretty quickly usually if somebody's actually interested in, or if they just want to know the specs and what I think about the camera. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like, I'm not going to give those people the 30 seconds out of my life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just not. I don't know you, and I've got, kids and a wife and lots of good friends that I would rather spend that 30 seconds talking to or texting or whatever. And so, I'm always been conscious about that a lot lately. Trying to, if you have a business that uses social media, group your social media posts, try to do all of them for a week or at least 3 days ahead, and schedule them all out and do them all in an hour's time one morning on Monday morning, and then you're good for the week and don't worry about it again, So anyway, grouping that stuff, grouping different things and phone calls and emails and that kind of thing, I feel like can free up your time so that A, you're less stressed, and B, you're just organized enough that like, okay, well, I did all this already for the week. Now I'm just going to go hunting, or whatever.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
that's a good point, man. I think that time management is something I struggle with. That I'm always 5 minutes late, like for everything. It's just what I do.
At least.
I'm just not, yeah. Hey, whatever. Okay, so little short
today
story.
Today was pretty bad, but it's not always that bad.
Okay, today was a different situation. Yeah. You and I both had some belly issues well, as y'all know, if you listen to the beginning of this podcast, we ate Mexican food a lot this week. So the belly has not been well all morning long, but we got it resolved. But there was a day recently whenever I showed up at your house at like 6 a.m. and I woke you up because we were supposed to be leaving, and you were still in your underwear.
Yeah, I remember that. We had a little miscommunication there, didn't we?
Yeah, where were we headed? We were headed Midwest, weren't we?
Midwest?
Weren't we going to go do our little loop?
I think we were, yeah. I think that's right.
Went and did our trail camera pull and stuff. But anyways, time management, I think, man, that's a key. And to be honest, like, if you're prompt on things, like, it shows respect and it shows that you care to a lot of people. So I hope you don't think I don't care, because I do. It's just
No, dude, you're not the first person in my life that has time management issues sometimes.
Well, to be honest, I usually go to your place. So technically I'm like 30 minutes short.
Yeah.
I
just always move in, like I move. I know
mentally.
I think like I'm like, okay, where can I move to where he has to pick me up every time?
That's it. You're just getting smarter.
You got to move to where like you're in between. I'm trying to move to where I'm in between KC and where we always go hunting or fishing. Okay, so I have a few more dumb things. Don't be dumb things. And these are just kind of like, these don't really fit into a great category probably. But first thing I would say is don't be dumb. Don't take up fly fishing. Do live bait and eat what you catch.
Oh, man.
Because they're, like we talked about earlier, you can spend some money in fly fishing. And B, it's one of the least efficient ways of catching fish probably. I guess, or it's a lot less efficient than catching fish on live bait.
Unless you're carp fishing.
Unless you're carp fishing, yeah.
Yeah. But
not many people eating carp out there.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
But yeah, eat what you catch too, and that's another one of those kind of bonus things for your wife, So if she likes fish and you're bringing home fish, it makes your fishing trips a lot more.
Don't take up fly fishing or you'll constantly want to be going somewhere during the hot summer months. That's super awesome.
Yeah. But it gives me a good excuse to cool down when it's 110 here.
I said that kind of tongue-in-cheek. You probably should take up fly fishing if you haven't tried it. But
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think don't be afraid to do the live bait thing. You can actually bring home some fish sometimes. One thing that I would say, just as a quick tip also, is don't be dumb and leave your arrow in your case bloody for 6 months after you shoot a deer. Just go ahead and clean it up real quickly after. It's way easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else I got. Oh, yeah. Don't be dumb. Turn around if a wall gets dangerous to climb, i.e. the Black Canyon.
That's true.
Go back and find the trail.
Man, we should have went back. It's all right. We lived, but we
barely, dude.
Didn't get any footage on the way out of the canyon because we were too scared to get out of the camera.
I'm telling you right now, I don't know if it's the difference in the way our bodies are shaped. And I'm just more spread out. It was not quite. I know you had a tough time, but it was not even. It looked way easier when you were doing it.
Yeah,
going up some of these things. I was having a tough time getting up this thing. I literally I thought I was scared. We've talked about this. I was legitimately scared. I thought I am about to slip. And I will not stop for 200 feet.
There was about a 10-yard stretch there where I felt that too.
Yeah. It was straight up.
It was
scary.
that time where we were kind of out there on that kind of point,
Yeah.
And it's we had to straddle this ridge.
Slick face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was gravel underneath your feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you constantly were balancing your weight on all fours. That way you wouldn't slip, because if you put too much weight on one spot, that spot was going to slip. But at the same time, you're supposed to move while that's happening.
Yeah. Oh, it was nuts.
It was dumb.
We should have just, when we got off, we should have just, instead of being lazy, taken back down, 100 feet or whatever and found the trail again and gone up. Would have been much easier. We would have ended up using less energy in the end.
I'm tired just thinking about that right now. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So back kind of on the lightning round here. Don't be dumb. Shoot your arrows at different spots on the target. Don't break them, Mr. Robin. I have found that beating. I'm pretty type A. I like to at least be able to have an influence, on a situation or whatever. And so I sometimes can get anxious, and I have found, especially lately, that deer driving, what you like to call deer driving, is a really good way for me to beat anxiety. And so, I'll just, if I'm feeling kind of anxious, something happens during the day, and I'm just golly, why can't it go away? I just want to stop thinking about it. Get in my truck, go looking for deer, and dream about, properties,
Which gives me anxiety all over again. It's a circle of life.
Yeah. No, I just when I get my mind off of it, I'm man, I wish I could have that. But it usually rids me of the anxiety that, is a different situation.
Sure.
It's kind of out of my hands or whatever. So anyway, I've got one more tip about getting rid of anxiety, but you'll have to hit me up in a DM or message on social media to get that one. So it's a secret tip, but
all right.
Anyway,
will I have to hit you up, or you tell me after this?
I'll tell you after this.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. So, thanks for sticking with us to the Don't Be Dumb stuff. I'm sure that if you follow us on any social media stuff, we'll have plenty more of these throughout the years of our lives because I continually make mistakes. And I'm so glad that I have people in my life who forgive me for such mistakes. And then I haven't made enough mistakes to get myself hurt in the woods because a lot of times I am dumb. So don't be dumb and just climb trees because you don't need to. Because I do that a lot. It's something I need to work on. But
You are a tree climber, man.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening to us, guys. And I just want to leave you with something with this. I was reminded of this a lot this week, especially with or in light of the whole NRA and Yeti situation that unfolded earlier this week. Like, it's so strange to see two, I guess, organizations / companies, whatever you want to call it, who kind of stand for the same stuff to kind of just like go at each other. And I kind of think it's a little bit one-sided. I think the NRA was a little bit of a jerk on some of this stuff. And I'm a supporter of some of the things they do. And you know, of course, Second Amendment rights, you know, it's kind of part of what we do, right? But just be kind.
Yeah.
It just, and this is just crazy to me that like people put kindness aside so that they can have what they think is success. And I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, man. Like, kindness is one of the easiest things to have, easiest things to show other people. And that's what we're supposed to do as humans. It's what Christ has intended for us. Like, we need to be kind to each other. And you just make the world a better place.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with you a bit about music. It's just inside of us to kind of be mean sometimes.
Yeah, it's what you sometimes call human nature, right?
Human nature, exactly.
And what is the mark of being a good human, I think, is being able to overcome that.
Yeah,
and know like the steps it takes to have good qualities and good character and act upon those, as opposed to just acting out of raw emotion or temptation.
Yeah,
you know.
And okay, so I just want to expand upon this just a touch. So if you are a hunter or fisherman and you're listening to this podcast, we give a lot of like tips and tactical information and try to have guys on that know what they're talking about so you can learn from them. So you're obviously trying to learn to be a better hunter or better fisherman. You know, you want to be successful. You're going to try to put in whatever hard work and discipline it takes to get it done. You're going to sit in that tree stand and freeze your butt off all day if you have to, kind of thing, you know? So why not put in hard work and discipline to just become a better person?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It should go hand in hand with the types that we are, you know? Anyway, yeah. I agree with you, man. Let's all try to get along a little better this week, man. See if we can make there's what, like 11 million hunters? If we all tried to stand up and be good people to each other and be kind to each other, we could make a difference in the world, you know?
Yeah, no kidding.
Or at least here in the U.S., and maybe that would spill over and people would stop, you know, going around doing crazy things to each other. So anyway, God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully we'll have some really cool guests on soon. We plan on it. So we'll see you soon. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.